After a rare down year from Maryland women's basketball in 2024, 2025 has been a return to form. The Terps got off to a red-hot start, but injuries and a tough schedule have slowed Maryland's momentum. We'll cover the highs and lows from Maryland women's basketball season so far on this episode of The Left Bench in Focus.
That's the kind of poise you've got to be able to have.
Welcome back to The Left Bench in Focus, presented by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Daniel Stein, that's Brendan Weissel, and Brendan, Maryland women's basketball is finally, once again, a top team in the Big Ten.
Yeah, Daniel, the Terps finished fourth in the Big Ten regular season, so they're going to get that coveted double bye in the Big Ten tournament.
They certainly will. Before the game tipped off, Maryland had already secured the 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament, but Ohio State came to town, and this one was a thriller. Maryland takes the lead in the first few minutes of regulation, with Sellers going 2 for 4 from 3 and Amari DeBerry contributing 6 points off the bench. The Buckeyes respond with its first lead of the game in the second quarter, and they lead by 1 at the break. Sellers briefly leaves the game with an injury in the third, but returns shortly after. The clock is winding down, and this one is going back and forth, but we're going to overtime. We'll come down to the final few seconds. Sarah Te-Biasu with the ball, gets down court, launches a floater from 3 to call game with 1 second left on the clock. The Terps win 93-90 in overtime and take down the Buckeyes, marking their 5th win over a ranked opponent this season.
This was an important game for our confidence to know that we can go into overtime and we can be shorthanded, we can be in foul trouble, and be able to pull out a game like this. I thought our resiliency was really good. Even when they took the lead, we didn't seem rattled. So that's the kind of poise you've got to be able to have, especially from a veteran-led team, here in March.
After Sunday's game winner, it only makes sense to bring on the hero versus Ohio State, Maryland guard Sarah Te-Biasu. Sarah, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's take it back to Sunday in overtime. You catch the ball with 7 seconds to go. What's your plan to get the final shot up?
I got the ball and I was looking for people if they were wide open or not, and I kind of saw I had a lane, so I thought I was wide open, so I just took that shot with confidence, and then it went in. Yeah.
Taking kind of like a floater from the three-point line. Is that a shot you practice very often?
Not often, but sometimes when I just work out. Sometimes I just practice that shot. Yeah.
And so how do games like the win over Ohio State give the team confidence heading into the Big Ten tournament?
I know it was a big win yesterday, and it gave us like confidence to just play hard for the Big Ten championships. We're gonna come together and trying to do everything we can to do our best games. Yeah.
How did it feel to get kind of that get-back win against Ohio State after losing the game at Ohio State earlier in the season?
I think it was like a revenge for us. We know like we were waiting for this game, so we came to this game ready and prepared and really confident at each other, playing for each other, making big plays and after big plays. So I think it was really like a revenge for us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's take it back now to the start of the season. You started off with 14 straight wins, mostly out of conference, and then you had to battle, through the Texas game and some other tougher Big Ten games. What do you think is the biggest difference you have seen from the team at the start of the season to the team now?
I think on and off the court, we really like together, always doing stuff, always like learning from each other. I think that's really helping us, and also like in practice after this loss, like Texas, USC, and kind of this lost games, we just came together and trying to practice really hard to make difference and be better, so we can prepare for this type of games. Yeah.
And so with the Big Ten and later NCAA tournaments coming up, Maryland's going to be facing plenty of tough opponents. You mentioned Texas and USC. What do you feel is the team's greatest strength heading into the postseason?
I think we playing for each other. And every games there's somebody's gonna step up. It can be Shy, it could be me, it could be Sailor, it could be KK, whatever. Everybody is stepping up even every game, and we always happy for that person. So I think it's really like we always connected, always together, and always supporting each other to be better every day. So that's probably our strength, yeah.
You
So you
personally, you made the NCAA tournament as a freshman at VCU back in 2021, and then you nearly made it last year once again. What are you most personally excited to about getting back to the NCAA tournament?
Having a real experience. I know I had my freshman year was the COVID year, so it was really, really different. But now it's just a real experience. Probably we can probably ho gonna host. We're not sure yet, but that's gonna be really huge to play for last time at home. Just host 2 games. It will be really nice. And I'm excited for this experience. That's the big stage, just playing in front of the crowd, playing against some good teams, so you can showcase what you're capable of. So I'm really excited. Yeah.
Well, Sarah, that's all the time we have for today. But thank you so much for being on the show, and good luck in the postseason.
Thank you so much, guys.
Maryland wrapped up the regular season with a win over Ohio State, but now let's look back at the season so far. After finishing last season with 9 wins and 9 losses in conference play, the Terps retooled, bringing in 5 key transfers. Maryland started off the year with 14 straight wins, including beating former rival Duke at home in November. The Terps peaked at 7th in the AP poll during their strong start, but then came a rocky patch. Starting with USC, Maryland played 5 of the next 6 games against ranked opponents. Not just ranked opponents, but some of the best teams in the country, including USC, UCLA, and Texas. During that 6-game stretch, Maryland lost 4 games with wins on the road at Wisconsin and at home to Minnesota. Although the Terps beat the Golden Gophers, they lost junior guard Bree McDaniel, who was averaging an important 10.6 points per game and energy off the bench. After that stretch, Maryland picked up a win at Penn State in Rec Hall and then lost a heartbreaker at home to Illinois. After 2 wins on the road at Oregon and Washington, Nebraska came into College Park and shot 57% from 3 and beat the Terps by 20. Since then, Maryland is on a 4-game win streak, including that OT thriller against Ohio State. They finished the regular season with only 1 road loss and a record of 23-6.
Now stay with us because when we come back, we'll break down Maryland's path in the Big Ten tournament with some bracketology.
And we'll reveal our Terp of the Year and our top 5 plays. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to Left Bench in Focus. I'm Brendan Weissel, that's Daniel Stein, and it's March, so obviously we're standing in front of a bracket.
Now the bracket behind us is sadly not the NCAA tournament bracket, but rather the Big Ten tournament. We will have to wait until Selection Sunday on March 16th for the men's and women's brackets.
I'm very excited to see that bracket, but for now, let's keep it in the Big Ten. Last year at this time, the Terps sat at 8th in the Big Ten. They took down Illinois and then top-seeded Ohio State before losing to Nebraska in the semifinals.
If Maryland wants to make the run in the Big Ten tournament, they once again will need to upset the top-ranked team in the conference. But this year, the path is slightly easier.
That's right, they get that double bye. And because they get the double bye, they won't play until Friday. And when they do, they'll either face Michigan or the winner of Minnesota, Washington. Daniel, who do you think the Terps will face when they finally get in action on Friday?
Well, let's take a look at the bracket. So here is Maryland right here at the 4 seed. Now, they do have a double bye, so it's either going to be, like you said, Brendan, Minnesota, Washington, or Michigan. Now, the good thing for Maryland is that they've beaten all 3 of these teams, right? I think if I had to choose one of these 3, it's very close, but I would say Michigan. Michigan has a phenomenal duo of freshmen that really gave Maryland a hard time in College Park just a couple weeks ago. And that would be a great matchup if it was the battle of the M's, the Michigan versus Maryland. But I could very well see Minnesota or even Washington. Washington's been really hot lately, and they gave Maryland some trouble this year too. So it really could be any three, but I would say Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan's absolutely a strong team. And I'll have to agree with you there. I think Maryland will end up facing Michigan, and we'll see where that goes down the line.
And so, Brendan, as you look at the bracket, what team in the Big Ten could make a surprise run like we saw Maryland do last year?
It's tough. There are 15 teams in this tournament, and something like 12 or 13 are projected to actually make the NCAA tournament. So honestly, really, any of these teams could end up making a run. But I'm gonna have to go with Indiana. First reason, tournament's being played in Indianapolis. They're from Bloomington. Maybe you have a little bit of that home court advantage, get some fans to come down. But overall, Indiana's been a very solid team offensively. They have around 5 players who are averaging just around double figures or better. But here's the thing I really like about Indiana. They play Oregon on Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, which is that 9 a.m. for that West Coast team. They played Oregon earlier in the year. They had their worst offensive game of the season. They only scored something like 47 points. I honestly don't expect that to happen again. So if Indiana can beat Oregon, they have the same thing if they face USC. Indiana played USC earlier in the season, and they only lost by around 7. So Indiana's a team that can definitely beat USC, and they get that same thing. They get that start time. USC would be playing at it's going to be noon, but it's really 9 a.m. for them on the West Coast, and that plays a difference. To me, being close to home and having to play a team that could be a really early morning wake up is kind of that perfect storm for an upset. If Indiana can't get it done, I would look at Michigan State. They're 6th in this bracket, but really they've been a top 25 team most of the season. They have the offensive star power to do it, and they face Ohio State, which is a slightly easier path than playing USC or UCLA. And then maybe we could see Nebraska do what they did last year if they get hot from 3 like they did against Maryland this year. But I would take Indiana as a team that could go far.
Yeah, and I mean, the Big Ten is so deep when it comes to just talent in women's basketball this year, Brendan. There's so many teams. I like the nuance of factoring in the West Coast teams because that time difference really could make a significant difference in the game. But now that we know a surprise team that could make it far, let's stick with the Terps. Brendan, how do you think Maryland will do in this year's Big Ten tournament?
It's so hard. If this team was healthy, I think I'd have a different opinion. We still don't know if Saylor's going to end up playing. Obviously, Bree's out for the season. With that being said, this Maryland team is still very, very good. I like their draw, too. They play Michigan, a team they played last week. I think Maryland can beat Michigan or whoever they end up facing in Minnesota or Washington. Assuming, like you said, it's Michigan. Maryland probably has to play USC, a team they played a very competitive game with at home, a game that went down to the final 3 minutes. It's just going to be so tough to beat USC. They only have 1 loss this season in Big Ten play. It was that Iowa game. The Iowa crowd was going crazy. I don't think they're going to be able to replicate that. I think Maryland will end up losing out in the semifinals against USC. How about you?
Well, it took Caitlin Clark being in the building for USC to lose. That should tell you something about how good the Trojans are. This year, I think a really good benchmark for Maryland women's basketball is going to be the semifinals, and I'll tell you why. I think out of whoever they play in this second round, even if it's Michigan, I think ideally for Brenda Friese's team, it should be a win. From there, you get USC. Now, Maryland was leading in a lot of that USC game. It was in College Park. It's not going to be in College Park this time. So are they going to win that game? It's a stretch. I would say no personally, but again, stranger things have happened. But again, I still think that's a easier route than playing UCLA because they also played UCLA at home at the end of January. And that game, it wasn't a blowout, but it just really was not the game that they were looking for. Now, I will say it really does depend on, like you said, if Saylor Poffenbarger plays because she's been an integral scorer on this team. But I think the semifinal is a good benchmark, and everything from there is gravy for the Terps.
Absolutely, I agree. I would have loved to have seen the Maryland-Ohio State, the 3rd time this season. Those games have been awesome, but unfortunately, we're not going to get it. Neither of us picked Maryland to go all the way and win the Big Ten tournament, as they actually have done 5 times. Let's predict who you think is going to actually take home the championship. Who's going to win the Big Ten tournament?
Well, the big favorites obviously are USC and UCLA. Now, there aren't as many upsets in these kind of postseason formats as we normally see in the men's bracket, especially the NCAA bracket. But I would say I really would not be floored if Maryland found itself in the final. But if I had to choose out of these teams right now, I would give the slight edge to USC just because I feel like Juju Watkins has the star power to overpower the Bruins on UCLA. Now, that's not to say UCLA doesn't have stars. They have Lauren Betts, one of the best players in the country. She'll be back next year as well for UCLA. But we very well could have a California showdown in the final If it's not UCLA, it's almost certainly going to be Ohio State in my book. But again, USC, UCLA, I would say it's a toss-up between those two. But what about you?
I agree. I'll keep it in California. I'm going to pick UCLA. I like their path, probably playing Ohio State. And I think the most likely thing, like you said, is we get a California rematch in the final. We get USC playing UCLA. They've played twice before. USC won both of those games. Those are actually UCLA's only losses in Big Ten play this season. And here's the thing, it is so incredibly hard to beat a team 3 times in the season, especially they just played this past week. So that's a really tough thing for USC to do, is to beat UCLA 3 times. I think those 2 teams are going to be in the finals. I'll take UCLA. Even if Maryland does beat USC and make it to the finals, just the domination that UCLA had when they came to College Park, I like them going all the way.
And one sleeper team to watch out that you mentioned, you talked about Indiana, you talked about Michigan State. I'm totally not biased in this way at all, but watch out for Illinois. Illinois came into College Park. Everything was written in the stars to suggest that Maryland was going to win that game against Illinois. It would have been Brenda Frese's 600th win. Cheyenne Sellers came back from injury mid-game, had the chance to win it, couldn't hit the shot. This is a really tough Illinois team, and when they go up against UCLA, think about the matchup. Lauren Bett's one of the best forwards in all of women's college basketball. Illinois has Kendall Bostic as well, who could really match up well against Bett. So I'd watch out for that. It's going to be a great tournament, though.
No, as I said, there's about 13 of them projected in the NCAA tournament field, so anything can happen, and I'm excited to watch along.
Yeah.
We can only spend so much time breaking down the Big Ten tournament bracket. For Maryland, their season will continue after this week in the NCAA tournament. Daniel, where do you think Maryland's going to land on Selection Sunday?
Well, while Maryland may not be the favorite in the Big Ten tournament this year, you can never doubt Brenda Frese. Now in her 23rd year with the Terps, her postseason experience always makes Maryland a threat. After a heartbreaking first-round exit at the hands of Iowa State last year, the Terps will look to avenge last year's loss. According to ESPN's most recent bracketology, the Terps would be a 5 seed and would travel to Norman, Oklahoma for the first 2 rounds. 12-seed Grand Canyon would be the Terps' first opponent in the latest projection. The Lopes are in the midst of an impressive season, boasting a 27-3 record, including 14-0 in conference play. Now, if the Terps beat Grand Canyon, ESPN has them playing either regional host Oklahoma or Missouri State. Now, from there, Maryland could run into a 1 seed, with ESPN projecting it to be USC, who of course beat the Terps in College Park back in January. Maryland made it past the first round just 2 years ago, but lost to top-ranked South Carolina in the round of 32.
Well, we are getting to the end of the show, so now it's time to hand out some awards. The Terp of the Year so far goes to Kayleen Smykel. Last year, Kayleen averaged just over 16 points for Big Ten rival Rutgers. Now with the Terps, she's gotten even better, averaging 17.9 points per game. The best part about Smykel has been her availability, as the Terps have struggled with injuries all year. She's the only player in Maryland to start all 29 games this season. She has played well on both sides of the ball, leading the team in steals with 44. Offensively, she scored a team-leading 36 points against Washington and a 3-point shooting shine when she went 3 for 3 against Duke in an important early season matchup. The Terps have gone as Kayleen Smykel has gone, making her our Terp of the Year so far. Well, all right, Daniel. It's that time of the show. It's our favorite part. Top 5. Get us started.
All right. So at number 5, we have Cheyenne Sellers whipping it over to Saylor Poffenbarger for her 500th career assist. Take a look at the replay. Again, Sellers, great vision on the court. She gets number 500.
She knew it was in. She put her hands up. Let's stay with the Michigan game, and a big block from Christina Dulce sends that straight into the ground and helped them win the game there at the end.
And at number 3, we go to West Lafayette. The nice save by Christina Dulce, and then the and one from Bree McDaniel. Such a shame she couldn't continue the season, but look at the effort from these two players teaming up for a great play there. That's just, I don't even think I can do that.
Oh, absolutely not. Let's go to number 2, Cheyenne Sellers behind the back pass. Bree McDaniel makes the finish. That pass she makes look so effortless. I would say up until Sunday night, that was probably the number 1 play of the year for us, maybe in all of Maryland. That was an incredible play.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, but at number 1, Sarah Te-Biasu for the win, nylon. As you said, Brendan, the floater 3-pointer, she has just been an absolute deadeye from outside the season, and she knocks one in there for the win in a huge ranked upset over Ohio State.
No, it was so great to talk to her early in the show, and I feel like all of College Park needed a buzzer beater to go right for them, and they got it done on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a fantastic shot.
Well, that's all we have for this episode of Left Bench in Focus. Next week, Vicky Podgorski and Alex Garrett will be behind the desk to anchor the Left Bench.
You can keep up with all of Terrapin Sports Central's coverage by subscribing to our YouTube channel, following us on X, Instagram, and visiting our website at terrapinsportscentral.com.
We'll see you next time.